To hell with the date on your birth certificate. Let's talk about what we have in common across generations. Life, sex, and tech at any age. Welcome to Age Blind with Nancy A. Shenker.
Hey everybody, it's Nancy A. Shenker of Age Blind, here once again to show that age is irrelevant and nobody really cares about the date on your birth certificate. It's about those things that bring us together as opposed to things that tear us apart. So today is super, super exciting. This is my ultimate holiday season social experiment and the beginning of something that I plan to incorporate in my weekly podcast recordings. And it's what I'm calling Nancy's Virtual Holiday Feast. And we even have a mascot. We have actually a couple of mascots. This is our talking turkey because we're going to talk turkey. I have no idea what he just said. I've got a pumpkin because it's the fruit of the season. And we have this turkey, which is the ultimate gobbler. And if any one of you says something that I find particularly insightful or brilliant, our gobbler will give you a gobble. That's the equivalent of a thumbs up.
It sounds so scary.
Does
the
it really?
voice, it's so like over the audio, it's like so deep. I can feel it coming for me.
Mm-hmm. It is a killer turkey. So the whole idea behind my Feast of Friends is to bring together 5 people who I know from various times in my life, ranging from 25 years up to within the last year. And I know each of you in very different ways and different capacities. But again, back to the commonality, as I call it, the middle of the Venn diagram, is you all are somehow connected to me. So we're going to start out with each of you just giving very, very quickly, 15, 20 seconds, how we met, what you do for a living, and then we're going to jump into the questions themselves. I've always been a big fan of Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live and The Bachelor and 90 Day Fiancé Tell All. So I'm getting my chance to actually be a podcast host and host you all. And if this works out well, we'll be doing this, as I said, once a month. So why don't we start with the shortest tenure, actually the longest tenure, and then go to the shortest tenure. So Helene, not to put you on the spot, but who are you? What do you do for a living? And how did we meet?
Well, we met through a mutual friend. I am a divorce lawyer by day and a camp director by night. We met from a woman who actually refers campers to sleepaway camps. And during the day, I am a divorce lawyer. You can imagine that it's a very crazy practice. And I live in Westchester, New York, and Chappaqua. I have 2 children, grown children, and 2 grandchildren. And Nancy, I adore our relationship.
Thank you. And Helene has been a guest on the podcast a couple of times talking about celebrity divorce and divorce in general. So, this is not deliberate, but Casey, why don't you go next?
Oh, thanks. I got to say, Helene, like the files behind you just really says so much.
I apologize. I
love it.
Know that I was supposed to have a different background. If you want to edit this out,
it's perfect.
No, each of those files is a marriage that didn't last. So
Totally.
Don't tempt me. If I can, I'll edit in more files.
Oh, geez. Okay. And my file is gone. I'm Casey Chester. I've known Nancy, I said 12 years. We met in a rock club in Pleasantville, New York. One night. It was awesome. We connected, clicked, and then from there became friends. We've done work together. She turned me on to going to therapy, which was always be grateful for back in the day because I didn't believe in it. There we go, little gobble. Yeah, and this is our 3rd podcast that I'm on as a guest of her podcast, which I'm really delighted to be on, especially with all you guys on this sort of unusual feast that we're about to do. And for a living, I'm an audio production engineer. I do sound for television, film, radio. I mix mostly commercials. I'm a single dad, 52. So I've definitely entered into the other part of my life here. And Yeah, just I'm building my own podcast, which I've mentioned before on other episodes. That's in development right now, which I can't wait to get done. That's going to be exciting. Hopefully by the new year, we will start to launch all of that. And looking forward to Thanksgiving with y'all.
Betsy, you're up next.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Betsy Fine. And Nancy and I met. I'm an East Coast gal, and I moved to Arizona about 5 years ago. Didn't know anyone. And I think I posted something on Facebook saying, hey, would love to meet new people and a little about myself. And Nancy saw that I was from the East Coast and we had lived in New York and had that, common ground. So we met up and, the rest is history. I own a company. It's called Clutterbusters, and we help people get organized in their homes, offices, and the company's in Maryland, but I run it here in Arizona. Also, I'm divorced. And I think I got you beat, Jim. I'm 17 years divorced.
I see.
And yep. And I have 2 adult children that also moved to Arizona too. So we're all here.
And just quickly, if you could tell everybody how you met your current significant other, because it's a great story. So Helene and Casey and Jim and Betsy and I have all commiserated at various times about the online dating thing and relationships. But your story is a classic one, Betsy, how you met your boo.
Like I said, I've been divorced for 17 years. I could write a book, obviously, like probably everyone, on the thousands of first dates, second dates I've been on. And basically, girlfriends of mine in Arizona were just fed up with the men that I was meeting and hated everyone that I was dating. And they said, well, you're fired and we're taking over. And basically what they did is I signed up for Match and I had my profile. Well, they kind of tweaked the profile also. And then they went in as me and they swiped on all the people and started the conversations and were basically, going through everything on Match to see who would be a good fit for me and made me go on dates with people that they thought were a good match. And there were many people I did not want to go out with that they were like, you have to. And then it led to, I swiped on the guy that I'm dating right now, but I didn't want to go on the first date because I didn't like what he planned for the first date. But my girlfriend was like, you wanted someone that plans things. This is what he planned. You're going. And like every step of the way, she kind of made me do things that I wouldn't have done myself. And now we've been dating about 1.5 years. So success.
And she doesn't live with them telling Betsy what to do. Like Betsy is now on her own. So
no, right. Yes. I've been on my own for a while with this.
All right. And I think, Kyle, you're probably next in terms of how long I've known the people at the feast.
I beat Jim? I just assumed I'd be last.
No, you may be tied, but
all right, yeah, so I'm Kyle Decker. In 2017, I started the fiction podcast Quest Friends, just as a fun side thing. I committed to it more and more, so in 2023, I got work at a podcast production company. That's where I met Nancy. Long story short, it didn't work out for either of us, so we both went rogue. So now I'm doing independent freelance podcast production, as well as just, some odd jobs for an event company. And yeah, that's the super short version. I guess since everyone's talking about their love lives, I am married as of 2 years. Met my spouse doing swing dancing.
So maybe
can we get a sample of the swinging?
Stand up and dance.
I can grab them. They're right out there, but the listeners aren't going to understand what's going on.
So maybe for the next feast, you each have to bring a date or your significant other, and it could be like the newlywed game, and we could do a quiz. So
right.
Last but not least, and we jokingly called you the podcast virgin because this is the first time you've been a guest on a podcast. So welcome to the wild and wacky world of podcasting.
Well, it's lovely to be with Nancy and her fans and these nice gang here. I'm Jim McGrew, and I live in Bethesda, Maryland, adjacent to D.C. I've lived here 15 years. I'm originally a Californian, and then I moved ultimately to DC to work for the government. I've always been in budgets, so I was indirectly part of spending government money for the last 15 years. I'm now retired, happily. One of my priorities every day is to basically 3 or 4 nights a week, I go to ballroom dancing lessons at Arthur Murray, having a ball. I have 3 sons. My youngest is 29. The oldest are twins. They're 40. Everybody's doing fantastic. And I am spending their inheritance like crazy, going on cruises and having fun. So I met Nancy inside this year. We met each other on Bumble when I was surfing around. And I read her profile, thought, wow, there's a lot going on there. I gotta connect with this lady with this big personality. So we met and just really hit it off. She lives a million miles away from me, so that's not romantic.
And Jim, I call it with the McGrew method because Jim has a very, very distinctive take on dating. And I think it's his budgeting background. He has a list of compatibility factors. And if you don't check all the boxes, you're toast, basically. So,
I wanted to know that list so badly because I'm sure I violate so much of it.
Yeah, it's too late for you. Yeah, it has to do with just being perhaps uber careful because we all know out there there's a lot of failure. So yeah, I've got some stories. For the good of the order, that's my story.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So because this is a season of gratitude, I also would just like to go around the table and for each person to talk about one thing that they're grateful for in 2024. In my head, I'm already living in 2025. So I will start. If you had told me a couple of years ago that I was going to have a podcast and that I was going to be able to do this and I was going to be able to set up the equipment myself and make the reels and the stories and do the promotion, I would have said, nah, who's going to listen to me? And here I am a year and a half later, as I said, almost 60 episodes in, and it's something that I've discovered that I really love. So I'm grateful for Kyle's help and the help of Riverside, which is a technology. So I don't know why I'm actually thanking an app, but it's so intuitive and so easy to use. And I could do it from anywhere that it really has made the whole process of podcasting so much easier. And through podcasting, I've met some really cool and interesting people. What I'm looking forward to in 2025 is I'm launching my personal brand website. And for the first time in my 68 years on earth, I am finally ready and able, without being overly narcissistic, to make myself the product and do more writing, professional speaking, hosting, which is a late life passion of mine, but something that I think I'm pretty good at and that brings me joy. So that's what I plan to do more of.
Nice.
Betsy.
Okay, so I am grateful, and mine's not just 2024, but it's probably been in the last year and a half. I've made a lot of changes in my life. One of them was that I lost 70 pounds, so that was a big change. I took up pickleball, and I'm grateful only because it's fun and it gets you moving, and there's friends that I've met and so forth. And then, the relationship that I've had in the last year and a half. So all of that has been within the last year and a half, step by step. And for 2025, just continuing on this path of figuring out, now that I've lost the weight, figuring out how to maintain the weight, because that's always been my issue through the years. But so far I've been able to for about 5 or 6 months. So for me, that's a win. And then just continuing everything with making myself better and professionally and with myself in general. So yeah, yay.
That deserves a gobble.
Yeah. Congratulations on the 70 pounds. It's amazing.
All right, Jim, you're next.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the word gratitude oftentimes is I'm grateful to a person or something, but related word is appreciation. And I would have to say, to narrow it into this year, one of my absolute favorite things to do is listen to audiobooks. And I love history, so I'm addicted to Ken Follett novels. He has a whole series of historical fiction. And so I would just say, just succinctly, I appreciate really creative people who have ideas that implement them. And the other thing is, for example, now that I'm retired, I watch a lot of YouTubes. Very creative people doing what they have a platform, they have a medium, they have podcasts. So I appreciate people who have mojo and then translate it into something that's able to encode through media. So that's real general that way. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So,
well, I would imagine also after a career in the federal government, it's like being released from Shawshank, that there's like a whole world out there that you're not going to see from the inside of the Pentagon.
Yeah, I live on a beach in Mexico, just grinning every day. So
what are you looking forward to most in 2025?
Well, right now I'm going to graduate from first grade in ballroom dancing. So more of that. I'm going to travel some more. 2 months ago, I was on a cruise to Bahamas, and I'm up for that every once a year. I'd rather be on terra firma.
Spending your kids' money.
No, fortunately, knock on wood, their world is they don't need my money. It's fabulous.
Cool. What every parent hopes for. So, Casey, 2024, what you're looking forward to in 2025?
Yeah. Well, kind of like in Betsy, like I've been sort of, it's, the life that I've had in 24 is probably going to just go right into 25. But like over the course of the years, I have been kind of transforming and very grateful for the growth in like personally, my business, watching my child. For instance, like around the house, I'm always into doing like projects that are completely outside of my wheelhouse, like, ripping like a toilet out or doing like a whole room and taking it all apart and doing the wiring and like, down to like everything. And I learn it through YouTube and asking around and doing my research, to like gardening or working with like an artist on a song. And then personally being able to sort of not be so set in my ways all the time, which is really tough as we get older. Mm-hmm. I've opened my mind a lot more to that kind of growth and being able to understand myself a little more without, sort of asking myself great questions of like, why am I feeling this, without reacting to something or making a judgment because I've been, it's happened in my past. I'm sort of learned a lot of those things. So I feel like that will all just go towards 2025 and only get better. And so far I get great feedback from people. So there we go.
Including from the turkey.
All right, getting some more gobbles. I'm getting gobbled up over here. I made an unusual mezcal Negroni, which is kind of in keeping with this group of people that we have here.
There you go.
So cheers to everybody today.
Cheers. Kyle.
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to be the suck up today and say I'm thankful for Nancy.
Oh, there you go.
But I have a reason.
Oh, he just wanted the gobble.
So when I left my job earlier this year, I just started basically looking for positions. And it was, I feel bad saying reconnecting because it was only like 2 months, but I guess quote unquote reconnecting with Nancy is what got me down the route of freelancing. And I think just the general support network I've had, including Nancy, but one of my friends who does freelance work, my spouse, my in-laws, basically just really grateful that I'm having the opportunity to try this in earnest when it's something that I had decided I wasn't going to do until I started doing it. As for 2025, I'm excited to just branch out and do more creative stuff. So I've been doing podcasting since 2017. It's very fun to do, both as a quote-unquote day job and as my personal side project. But I like branching out and doing more creative things. I've been practicing digital art for 2 years. And for my podcast, which is normally improvised fiction, we're going to be doing a musical episode probably mid next year. And to save costs, I'm composing all the songs, something I did not start doing until earlier this year. So
Wow.
I'm just really excited to, I guess,
Challenge yourself.
challenge myself, do more artistic, creative stuff that's not just what I've already been doing, while also still doing what I've already been doing.
Very cool. You get a gobble for that.
I'm grateful for the turkey and its gobbles. There we go.
Double
I'm
gobble.
grateful for Amazon that was able to ship me a turkey in 24 hours. And
Mhm.
because you can find anything on Amazon and get it in 24 hours.
For
So
sure.
In that day sometimes.
last but not least, Helene, what are you grateful for in
Well,
2024?
first, I want to say, Casey, you sound really great, and I have to do something about my camera and my sound.
I'll
And
come up there. We're not too far away.
I was going to say, I was going to ask you if you could.
Yeah, build Helene a little podcast studio for
Yeah, why not?
like divorce. It could be like divorce court background. You could have like a scale like a picture of a couple tearing each other's throats out in the background.
Totally.
Well, long term, I'm very proud that I became like a successful woman who could just stand on my own. I could do anything. I could afford to do anything. I don't, I'm able to help to provide for my children. That makes me feel really good. And I think that I'm feeling it more this year. I have no idea why. But this year in particular, it's a personal thing. I'm sure that Nancy knows. I got a call out of the blue from someone I knew before I got married. He said, "Oh, I'm coming to New York." Now, that's probably 40 years ago. He said, "I'm coming to New York." And we kept in contact on Facebook once a year. He said, "I'm coming to New York and maybe we can go out to dinner." And I said, "Yeah, okay, whatever." And we met and we fell madly in love. And it was the most extraordinary year that I've had, I think, since I was with my husband. Unfortunately, he lives in Iowa, and we really couldn't make it work. I was in the air 18 times, and we traveled all around. He has an extensive business that he runs, and so it's also a sad part. But what it did is it gave me hope that I could really fall in love again. It's really there, and it was really wonderful.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That's
Gobble.
nice.
Gobble,
Sharon.
gobble.
Yeah, we need a gobble for that.
Yeah, definitely a gobble. Yeah, I think we're all, capable of love, and it's easy to get cynical and forget that it's out there. But
I want to say one more thing, Nancy, because you'll like this because of the old branding you had. I'm old. I won't say how old, but I have to tell you that the sex was amazing. And I thought that
Right on.
but like so fucking amazing that I never thought that would ever happen again.
Bravo.
And
Two lessons learned.
Gobble, more gobbles.
More
Many
gobbles.
gobbles.
tell
Fell in
you,
love and got laid. Well, there's something actually really great about that, because I think a lot of people forget about when they meet somebody, even if it doesn't work, sometimes just knowing that you met somebody really cool is inspiration to know that it's out there. Just because it didn't happen doesn't necessarily mean it had to happen, but it taught you something. It's like, yeah, I actually can feel those feelings for somebody. I can, get there. But sometimes logistics get in the way, especially as we get older, or what our, situation is, and the whole thing of you will make it work doesn't always work, but it can, just depends on, but that's really cool that you saw it that way.
Yeah, and Helene and I, she'll sometimes call me, if she has had a date or, met somebody online or vice versa. And, I'm always try to keep the attitude that every interaction, every person you come in contact with is a moment of learning, either learning about another person, learning about yourself. And that's a practice, a gratitude practice that I think that I just incorporate into my daily life, where I'll say, well, last hour was a really sucky hour, but out of that hour, this is one small thing that I took away that will make me smarter, wiser, warmer for my next encounter.
I knew someone who basically ruined my life for 3 years of college. And it's interesting because I also know that I have her to thank for me choosing the life direction I have. And that if I had not met this person, I probably never would have done that and would have taken probably a much worse route. And it's always an interesting balancing act, especially when you want to see it in a black and white way.
Yeah, I mean, Helene and Casey both had to tolerate listening to me whine about a toxic relationship that lasted many years. But, I think you could both agree that as a result of that, I emerged wiser, stronger, and, destined not to make the same mistake twice. And Jim,
Agreed.
as a new friend, is really, really good. We're very different people, but he's like no bullshit and will, really give me that smack upside the head if I'm doing something that's a waste of my time or my energy in a kind and loving way, Jim. You're not.
It's a gobble upside the head.
A gobble upside the head for sure. And Jim, if you don't mind just sharing a little bit your philosophy about being the CEO of your own life. Really, it applies to dating, but I think it's a good general policy that we should all think about living by.
Okay. Well, as far as long-term relationships, we're looking for the big O. Now, the big O is not what you think it is. It's the optimal fit where the compatibility is extraordinary. And for long-term success, it really needs to be extraordinary. Outwardly, inwardly, very inwardly, same worldview. And the thing that Nancy always teases me on is how I'm just very sort of insist on proximity. If you can't get to your sweetheart in 30 minutes, it's very problematic. So the idea is just we all are conscious about self-management and being careful and making good decisions. So the way we make good decisions is collect information, and then it's the scientific method. You collect information and you make commitments, or you conclude based on that. In the intelligence business, or even underwriting, it's called collect the dots before connecting the dots. Collect as much information as you can. So that's the dating thing. Of course, it's fun, it's winsome, it's silly, it's flirtatious, but it's also collecting information. So bingo bango, I'm still single.
Actually, I had a question to challenge you on that for a second.
Sure.
I
you said you were single for a while.
Also.
Yeah, you said you were single for a while, and proximity. I agree. It'd be great to just have somebody around the corner, but the trade-off is the time you've been single versus like you could have, if you met someone just a little further away that actually worked, and you clearly have the means to be able to move around.
Sure.
You wouldn't have to be, wait so long. So it's like that within my 30 minutes, it would be great. But sometimes we have to make, you can make it work.
Well, I also live in a very big metropolitan area. It's raining men and women. Okay. So the notion is anybody can say anything can happen. That doesn't require, a child can say that. Those of us who are a little more sophisticated, all the people listening to Nancy's shows, understand the idea of likelihoods, probabilities. So your probability of success goes up if you do the mental work up front of assessing true compatibilities.
I think sometimes if you are so strict in someone has to have A, B, C, D, E, and F, and if they don't have all of that, then they hit the curb. That makes things a lot more difficult, because I was that person for sure. They had to be a certain height and a certain this and, everything. And that wasn't working for me. And I was in the DC area for 11 years single. And I would go an hour, not 30 minutes, but I would go about an hour. And then by having someone take over my dating life and changing, they didn't have to have A, B, C, D, and E, and F, but maybe they had, a couple of them, but not all of them. And then meet the person and let's see how it goes. I know for me, initially with dating, I would meet someone, have a first date, and decide right away, nope, not a good fit, boom. And I probably had people that were maybe a good fit, but I just, made a quick decision. And then after a while, I was like, even if I don't like the first date, maybe give them a second date or more, because you really don't know anything right away or make, quick decisions. And compatibility doesn't always, opposites do attract. And like I said, it doesn't always have to be, this is a formula. And if you find the formula, you're going to fall in love and happily ever after.
And just to make it, more general, because not all of our listeners are single. Kyle is happily married. I think
I still have thoughts. Trust me.
I'm not going to tell you why.
2 years? Oh my God.
But a lot of this also applies to just relationships in general. Helene and I didn't talk for 3 years. Casey and I have had some knockdown, drag out, not physical, but verbal arguments about things that we disagreed on. And I think as I get older, something that I really have begun to wrap my head and my heart around is somebody could exhibit a certain kind of behavior. And then, if you really lean in and you understand why they are who they are, that doesn't mean you have to marry them like Pee Wee Herman in the fruit salad. But you could say, well, this person is great 80% of the time, and the 20% will either just work on or ignore. So it's really finding those things that are really most important and heartfelt to you. And as I was putting together the feast, the people I wanted around my table, there were people who didn't make it to the table, who I said, you know what, they're not going to bring humor. They're not going to bring joy. They're not going to be worthy of a gobble. So why would I even want them in my inner circle? So I'm writing a blog that will coincide with the release of this episode, which is, who do you really want at your Thanksgiving table? And sometimes you could wind up with people you don't want, and you just have to suck it up and deal with it, which is a really good segue into our favorite and least favorite foods at the Thanksgiving feast. So we're going to have a moment of levity. We're going to go from heavy stuff, relationships and compatibility, to things like stuffing and cranberry sauce. So let's go backwards this time. Helene, what's your most favorite Thanksgiving treat and your least favorite?
I was sitting here trying to think about my least favorite. I really don't know, Nancy. I love everything about Thanksgiving, from the turkey to the cranberry sauce to everything. I'm just trying to think about. I can't come up with a least favorite. I'm really sorry, and I'm sorry that I can't come up with something a little more witty.
It's that thing that somebody brought that you didn't like.
The early fruit cake
that they were testing on you.
Kyle, what about you? Most favorite, least favorite?
I hate Thanksgiving food. People talk about I've eaten so much. No, I hate it. Turkey is worse chicken. Ham is whatever. It's better on a sandwich. I never stuff myself. Entrees at Thanksgiving are just not for me. But I do like deviled eggs a lot.
Yes.
And I do like the tastefully simple beer bread mix. When I go to my family Thanksgivings, I'd skip the turkey. I just hang out by the beer bread and the deviled eggs, and I just pop them for about 3 hours and then go on my way.
It's a lot of deviled eggs.
I don't care.
An explosion right
the
there.
doctor says my cholesterol and triglycerides are very bad, but I will not stop. You cannot make me.
Casey, you're on.
Oh, man. Well, my Thanksgivings have always been interesting over the years. I mean, we grew up Italian, so there was always 2 meals going on. So typically our Italian meal was better than the Thanksgiving one. But I'd really turkey doesn't do it for me. But when it comes to I would say that's my least favorite. It's not that I hate it. It just, I don't really like it as much. And we actually, when I do Thanksgiving with my folks, we don't even make any turkey anymore. We just do a regular dinner. But I the cranberry sauce and the stovetop stuffing is what we use, really simple stuff. Yams.
You like the cranberry sauce in the can that comes out?
Oh, yeah. It has to have the ridges and everything. I mean, when you get too fancy with it, it doesn't, for me, it doesn't work out as much. But yeah, really all the extra stuff, and then mixing it together. But really the leftovers, I think, is really where it all comes together, is at night when you're after you're done and you want to go back for more. That's kind of when we're all in there, get a little high and then go have some Thanksgiving again.
Jim, does a turkey have to live within a 30-mile radius?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like Helene. I absolutely love it. The only downside is it's so easy to eat too much, and then you have a turkey coma. But yeah, just bring it. Everything. Just I get so full that it ruins the evening.
Betsy, especially now in your new svelte body, like,
Well,
is that going to change how you celebrate?
no, not really. But I always host Thanksgiving, and I always go a little overboard. My Martha Stewart comes out, and everything has to be a certain way. But what I was going to say is, last year I baked the turkey, and everyone was about to come, and I went to take it out of the oven, and I dropped it on the floor.
Okay.
I'd still eat it.
Of course, yeah.
I'm
Don't
so
ask,
sorry, unless you have pets, in which case I'm so happy for them.
I quickly put it back in the pan, and I said, nobody saw that. And
Exactly.
no one knew what happened. And I mean, a couple of people did. And I was like, so what I'm looking forward to this year is not dropping the turkey, and my mom used to make, it sounds gross, but it's a Jello mold. And that's what they call it. I don't know what else to call it, but it's like a cranberry sour cream Jello mold, and it's really good. And I make it every Thanksgiving, and I'm the one that usually eats it, and I still will eat it.
Sounds good.
It is good.
It's always great to have those things you eat. Our wedding cake is my favorite cake, which is great because it means every anniversary I just eat an entire cake myself because I'm the one who likes it.
Right. Yes,
Yeah, and
that's what it is.
I don't eat gluten anymore. I'm really on a kick to get healthy and to live to be 100. So it used to be stuffing and, stuffing with all the things in it, sausage, nuts, like really meaty stuffing. But now I like, and it's not a traditional Thanksgiving dish, but I love Brussels sprouts with pancetta. And
Yum.
like a really interesting sauce. Or I still really do like the old fashioned green bean casserole with the mushroom soup and the onions, although we don't get to eat it that often. Least favorite? Yeah, the cranberry sauce that comes in the can. I always thought was kind of gross. Sorry, Casey. But I do like fresh cranberry sauce that's like made with, I sometimes
Real
will.
cranberries.
I'll sometimes be like a cranberry alchemist, but I'm the only person who likes it. So it's one of those things like, like you were saying, Betsy, sometimes you make something because you love it and nobody else loves it, but it doesn't really matter because
No, exactly.
Yeah.
One thing that's great about Thanksgiving is over the years, we've always had just an interesting group of people. It's never just been the same family. It's like my family. And then when I was younger, it was always like some extra people. Like one year, this guy came, he was like a retired surgeon or something like that. And he did a turducken, or one time was a turducken, but this other guy, he deboned the entire turkey. It was like a casserole turkey, which was pretty cool the way it came out. And then other years I've actually just split and just like traveled, went to Amsterdam, went hiking, and just did like solo trips for Thanksgiving and then meet people along the way. And then you have whatever, you never know. One time I had a Mexican Thanksgiving in Sedona and it was amazing. So you just never know what's going to happen.
That's the other thing for our listeners. If you don't have plans for Thanksgiving, do not despair. I had an orphan Thanksgiving one year here in Arizona. We're a group of random women, probably from Betsy from the Scottsdale, one of the Scottsdale girlfriend groups or Arizona girlfriend groups. We all wound up like in the restaurant at the Fairmont Princess, and I thought we were going to the nice restaurant, and we ended up down in the kiddie restaurant in the basement. But there was a woman there who I knew, and we had a good laugh over it. And we went to see the Christmas decorations afterwards. So sometimes those weird orphan Thanksgivings could turn out to be something great, or somebody could bring a guest, as you were saying, Casey, like unexpected random person, like the six of us
always
around
happens.
our little podcast feast table. So I'm so grateful for your all joining us today for the inaugural Feast of Friends. We will come up with a new name for it after the Thanksgiving season. And our new little mascot. We'll have to have a new mascot as the seasons change. But I am so grateful to have you all in my life in various evolving capacities, going all the way back to, what did we say, 25 years?
Yes, Nancy.
Whoa. How could it be? I'm only 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to have you all in my life for many, many years to come. So if anyone who's listening to this or watching it, you can listen to it on any podcast platform. You can watch it on YouTube. Kyle has also been making reels and stories based on our episodes. So watch for those, and please feel free to share them out to your social media groups. But if anybody would like to be a guest, either for a one-on-one interview or for an upcoming random roundtable, please email me at nancyashenker@gmail.com, SHENKER@gmail.com, with the subject line podcast guest. And we'll do a pre-screener, and then we're booking now for 2025 and beyond. So thank you all so much. Remember to always be age blind. If you have a Thanksgiving table that ranges in age from kids to 100, you have something to learn from everybody at that table. So keep an open mind, talk to people of all ages, all stages, and remember to practice gratitude every day of your life. And I am so grateful to have you all in my circle. And
Gobble, gobble.
Bye, all.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Nancy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.